Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to Impossible Mission. And this time we're going to have a little bit of a change of tack. We could talk about what's going on in games. I mean, it is like the perfect time to be talking about the news in video games, but with like next generation consoles. Yeah, we're right on the edge of this generation and the start of the next one with Xbox Series X, S, PlayStation 5. It's all happening.
Yeah, but not only that, you have, at this point in time, right, and this links into another discussion that you and I are having kind of in the background, which we will come to on a particular episode in the future.
Yes.
But we have in the background the worst rated game in history, the worst user-rated game in history, Madden 21.
Oh, well, it's not the worst rated game in history, but it's certainly had a lot of fan backlash.
The worst user-rated game in history.
But anyway, we're swinging around it a lot, but basically what we're getting at is there's going to be a new type of Impossible Mission, one where we take hypothetical situations, whether we're pitching stuff or talking about, say, this thing versus that thing.
Yeah.
And this one is a this thing versus that thing episode. So we've got let's take 1 year, an average year. We're not saying any specific year to make this an easier discussion. Any year, and throughout the entirety of that year, you can either play AAA games or highly rated indies. Not a mash of one and a little bit of the other. Yeah. Only highly rated indies or AAA games.
I just want to specify, because there will be people out there who've focused in on what you said, honed in on the precise details of what you said, and chosen 1975 or 1969 when we didn't have video games.
No, we did, but there was like 6 of them.
And then and basically destroyed our entire argument.
Yeah, that's why I'm being very specific about the fact that you could pick any year post to 2010. Yeah. And this would be like an easy place to position this sort of
Yes. Right. Okay. So I suppose we should start off with the benefits of AAA gaming. I mean, there are a lot.
Yeah. I mean, AAA gaming, let's just sort of define that first. I think it's very high. Well, basically, it's blockbuster video gaming, what we're talking about. The games which are pushed in adverts, stuff from like Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Microsoft 343 Studios, stuff like this. I'd even go Remedy as sort of an independent AAA company.
So, I mean, if you're going to be talking about particular titles, you're talking about your Halos, your God of Wars, your Last of Us, your Resident Evils, these levels of games where the graphical quality and is literally, you're talking about photorealistic graphics, really highly detailed environment, complex enemy AIs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before when we've mentioned Next Generation, What is Next Gen, in an episode recently, how AAA is what's pushing the industry forward, and it's a technology, and even if it's a game, like a toy technology, it's still technology, and a lot of people who really are interested in sort of being on the cusp of what technology is will be all about playing this stuff, which is pushing the industry forward with graphics, with engines, with this and that. So when you have something that you're showing off and you have like a game, it's the sort of AAAs are the sort of games where somebody will walk past you and you think, oh, what movie are you watching?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why games like Detroit Become Human and Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that, they sell a lot.
Well, they sell a lot for what they are.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that they're the best games, but...
No, I mean, it's because they're story-driven games. It's not like a rich area for sales, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. With AAA games, there is a challenge to playing AAA games which you don't get from, like, mid-range games and indie games.
Well, I think there's a reason for that, is because there's a lot of money in it, and they're trying to make you spend as much time and as much money on it as possible. So you pay like $60 or £50-60 on your game. You know you're going to get your money's worth.
Well, yeah, I'd say within reason you're going to get your money's worth. We have just mentioned Madden.
But sports games are kind of their own little thing.
Yeah, but the point here is that when you got the ability to spend part of your development budget on creating an AI for your enemies in the game, for the players' enemies in the game, and make them have really complex actions and actually learn your habits in the game.
Yeah.
And do things like flank you or try and sneak up on you from different positions. So every single time you might play through that particular section of the game, it'll play differently.
Yeah, that was the big selling point behind Phantom Pain, wasn't it? A few years back.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. That presents a completely different challenge to something that you might find in, say, indie games.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. It's also a story thing as well.
Yeah.
Indie games do value story, but it's a different type of story. Let's take a big AAA franchise, for example. Uncharted.
Yeah.
Uncharted 4 was, just to sort of surmise the story, it was about basically Nathan Drake coming to terms with his entire career. Now he's escaped it, essentially, and his brother, who he thought was dead, dragged him back in for one last job. So instead of thinking, I've got to get the gold, whatever the cost, like he used to, he's got a wife now that he wants to get back to.
Yeah.
And it has some sort of human cost there. But it has that human cost and puts it in a game which is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous graphics. And I wouldn't say next-gen gaming, but it's evolving hand over fist every time there's a new iteration.
Yeah. One of the other things I love about AAA gaming is just the amount of diversity on the player's actions, right? Say you're playing, say, a first-person shooter. The number of different weapons which can present numerous different modes of attack, right?
Yeah.
Just in one first-person shooter, and then in other AAA games, you add on crafting systems, maybe you add on base building systems. Fortnite is a great example of, I wouldn't say Fortnite was a AAA game.
It's become one.
It's become one. But Fortnite is a great example of a game where they've added a mechanic into it that might have been a gimmick at first, but people have really used it in creative ways.
Yeah.
And really built the popularity of the game. There are other games where, say, if you take Red Dead Redemption 2, the whole hunting and crafting aspect of Red Dead Redemption 2, I know it wasn't for some people. I know that Rockstar probably went into far too much detail.
Yeah.
When it came to certain aspects of the hunting of animals. But that is something that you only get in AAA games, you know? That's not something that you're going to get in other games, is it?
It's what you're getting at there is basically in AAA games, you always have this feeling of a living, breathing world that you're a part of.
Yeah, exactly. Take, for example, the crafting side of things. It's very... there are games out there where if you basically want to learn how to make a sword, you have to learn blacksmith skills. So there are aspects of the game where it's all about timing your strikes on the anvil, right?
That's a game. Okay.
That's part of a crafting mechanic in a game.
Yeah.
Right? And you just think, this is ridiculous, but it's immersive because it's an actual part of the crafting mechanic and it's involving you. So you're basically... I can't remember which game it was, but it was a first-person perspective game, and you basically got the hot metal on the anvil, and you basically time your button strikes as a kind of quick-time event.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was probably that one that looked like Skyrim, but it was like historically accurate.
Kingdom Come Deliverance, was that?
Yeah, historically accurate Skyrim. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
It might have been. Your character's dad was a blacksmith in that game, so that's the game I'm thinking of.
That does make a lot of sense.
Possibly that's the game I'm thinking of. I don't know. Can't remember. But, so things like that are things that you only get in AAA games. You won't get them anything else.
And it's also the graphics kind of goes without saying, but game world as well is a big part of a AAA game. I'm not the biggest fan of Horizon, but one thing I absolutely adored about it was the variety of the world that you were involved in.
Yeah.
You had like peaks of giant great mountain, dense forestry, deserts, and they were all within like touching distance of each other. And that's an expensive endeavour, really, because you basically like there's a thing which you don't really get that much in independent games. Environment artists. I think Horizon actually had foliage artists as a job. So people who were doing this sort of thing at a micro level. You have also, it's not the same thing, but just on that sort of that point of people doing very specific jobs in the animation department and the world design and building department, there was a person who worked in the Arkham games who was responsible for the flapping of the Batman's cape.
Yeah, and that's something that you can only do in AAA games. On the subject of the world, right? If you look at the world building in a game, and by that I don't mean the storyline, I mean all the other bits of information that you collect about the world from other characters, written down in books, written down in notes, from knowledge that you learn in libraries, or knowledge that's given to you from relics, or in paintings and things like that. All of this massive information. I mean, Dark Souls is a great example of doing this kind of world building in terms of but framing it as stuff that you find lying around, little stories, little snippets of information that build this world of Dark Souls, right? And give you more information about the whole setting, the whole environment of it. And that's, again, something that you can only really narrow in on and build properly in a AAA game. You can do it in other games, but there'll always be something. It's in other games where you see it, it's nowhere near as complex and nowhere near as detailed.
Yes. Moving on to another point of AAA games, I think one or two more points, and then we'll flip over to the indie side of things. It's the quality of the production. I mean, the graphics, yes. Design, yes. Mechanics, yes. Very long game time, yes. But also, performance.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, let's just use Resident Evil because that's been mentioned in the episode so far. But there's one line in Resident Evil which will outlive the game, and most games, let's be perfectly honest.
I'm gonna kick this door down. Hurry! This way!
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
That once upon a time, that is what games used to be. I mean,
that was the height of acting in games.
Yeah, it was like FMVs as well. If you're very young and you don't know what that is, that's full motion video. What was it called?
Yeah, full motion video. Basically, you're talking about games like the notorious Night Trap, right? Which
I was going to say Command and Conquer because the cutscenes in Command and Conquer were awful.
Yes, they were. But Night Trap was an awful game, just full stop.
Yes, it was. It was.
I do not understand.
We have altered the past and changed the present.
Ah, good to see you, sir. I have the reports from the front that you requested.
Thank you. What do you have for me?
I'm sorry, Comrade General. I meant Premier Cherdenko.
And then you've got, you had Sierra doing their kind of full motion video games, and I think Night Trap was one of the games that was up for that. When they finally did the ratings on games, it was Mortal Kombat and Night Trap.
Yeah,
two games
on that recent series, wasn't it? High Scar. That was one
on
of the episodes.
Netflix. Worth watching. If you've not watched it yet, it's worth watching.
But now you've got people who can become really well-regarded actors. Troy Baker has become sort of synonymous. Nolan North, but they're kind of ubiquitous and not really that interesting because of that. Personally, the idea that you could get a performance like, I can never remember his name, but he plays, he's in Stargate. The thing is, a performance like that which is so incredibly subtle, the way he says every word is absolutely considered and packed full of emotion, is incredible. The idea that a game could make you cry or upset people or get people so emotionally invested because of the quality of the performance in an industry where Jill Sandwich is a thing. It's amazing what's possible in acting in video games with the right director and the right team involved.
Yeah. Also, it's Christopher Judge.
So anything else you want to mention about AAA games? But
yeah, there is one last point that I want to mention, right? And that is the scale.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a very important point. AAA games, by their nature, are massive. And when I say massive, I mean they are truly just these. We talked about environments and the detailed environments and stuff like that, but just the scope and the scale of the environment. You take the Spider-Man game, right, and you start swinging from one side of the city, and you just keep swinging all the way across without any breaks, without any cuts, right, without any screen fading to black. You just can go from one side of the city to the other, can't you?
Admittedly, there's walls that stop you from going to the other islands, but take your victories where you get them.
Yeah, but just in the city itself,
yeah.
How much, now, you go down to ground level, right, and you run that distance in the game. I tried this because I was curious how big, how long it would take if Spider-Man couldn't swing from one building to the other. How long would it take to run all the way there?
A while.
Yes. Thing is, obviously, it's smaller scale because it's in a city and you're running faster, and you can jump over stuff that you wouldn't be able to jump over in real life.
No, you never established that if you just run.
No, but the thing is, you got to wait for traffic to finish and stuff like that, whereas in the game, you can just run in front of the traffic and it's not going to hit you.
Jump on top of cars and it'll just get a free ride.
Yeah, but you try doing that in New York. You try running through traffic in New York.
Yeah, you'd be dead pretty quick.
Exactly. And that's my point. If you just try it. In a game like Spider-Man, it works. You can't really tell it in other games. Well, I suppose you could do it in other games where you have mounts and stuff like that. That's why they give you mounts, because it's kind of aiding in your fast travel.
Yes. So that's us making our case for our AAA games. We're going to sort of draw a line in the sand, and we'll be back in the next video where we make our case for indie games. So until then, thanks for watching.